the new god of treasure, the new gods of treasure, the new god of treasure, the new goddess of treasure, the new goddesses of treasure, the new goddess of treasure, the old god of treasure, the old gods of treasure, the old god of treasure, the old goddess of treasure, the old goddesses of treasure, the old goddess of treasure, the greater god of treasure, the greater gods of treasure, the greater god of treasure, the greater goddess of treasure, the greater goddesses of treasure, the greater goddess of treasure, the lesser god of treasure, the lesser gods of treasure, the lesser god of treasure, the lesser goddess of treasure, the lesser goddesses of treasure, the lesser goddess of treasure, the higher god of treasure, the higher gods of treasure, the higher god of treasure, the higher goddess of treasure, the higher goddesses of treasure, the higher goddess of treasure, the lower god of treasure, the lower gods of treasure, the lower god of treasure, the lower goddess of treasure, the lower goddesses of treasure, the lower goddess of treasure, the greater spirit of treasure, the greater spirits of treasure, the greater spirit of treasure, the lesser spirit of treasure, the lesser spirits of treasure, the lesser spirit of treasure, the higher spirit of treasure, the higher spirits of treasure, the higher spirit of treasure, the lower spirit of treasure, the lower spirits of treasure, the lower spirit of treasure, the major god of treasure, the major gods of treasure, the major god of treasure, the major goddess of treasure, the major goddesses of treasure, the major goddess of treasure, the minor god of treasure, the minor gods of treasure, the minor god of treasure, the minor goddess of treasure, the minor goddesses of treasure, the minor goddess of treasure, the superior god of treasure, the superior gods of treasure, the superior god of treasure, the superior goddess of treasure, the superior goddesses of treasure, the superior goddess of treasure, the inferior god of treasure, the inferior gods of treasure, the inferior god of treasure, the inferior goddess of treasure, the inferior goddesses of treasure, the inferior goddess of treasure, the ancestor god of treasure, the ancestor gods of treasure, the ancestor god of treasure, the ancestor goddess of treasure, the ancestor goddesses of treasure, the ancestor goddess of treasure, the ascendant god of treasure, the ascendant gods of treasure, the ascendant god of treasure, the ascendant goddess of treasure, the ascendant goddesses of treasure, the ascendant goddess of treasure, the descendant god of treasure, the descendant gods of treasure, the descendant god of treasure, the descendant goddess of treasure, the descendant goddesses of treasure, the descendant goddess of treasure, the transcendent god of treasure, the transcendent gods of treasure, the transcendent god of treasure, the transcendent goddess of treasure, the transcendent goddesses of treasure, the transcendent goddess of treasure, the past god of treasure, the past gods of treasure, the past god of treasure, the past goddess of treasure, the past goddesses of treasure, the past goddess of treasure, the present god of treasure, the present gods of treasure, the present god of treasure, the present goddess of treasure, the present goddesses of treasure, the present goddess of treasure, the future god of treasure, the future gods of treasure, the future god of treasure, the future goddess of treasure, the future goddesses of treasure, the future goddess of treasure, the authentic god of treasure, the authentic gods of treasure, the authentic god of treasure, the authentic goddess of treasure, the authentic goddesses of treasure, the authentic goddess of treasure, the synthetic god of treasure, the synthetic gods of treasure, the synthetic god of treasure, the synthetic goddess of treasure, the synthetic goddesses of treasure, the synthetic goddess of treasure, the progressive god of treasure, the progressive gods of treasure, the progressive god of treasure, the progressive goddess of treasure, the progressive goddesses of treasure, the progressive goddess of treasure, the regressive god of treasure, the regressive gods of treasure, the regressive god of treasure, the regressive goddess of treasure, the regressive goddesses of treasure, the regressive goddess of treasure, the ordinary god of treasure, the ordinary gods of treasure, the ordinary god of treasure, the ordinary goddess of treasure, the ordinary goddesses of treasure, the ordinary goddess of treasure, the extraordinary god of treasure, the extraordinary gods of treasure, the extraordinary God of treasure, the extraordinary goddess of treasure, the extraordinary goddesses of treasure, the extraordinary goddess of treasure, the static god of treasure, the static gods of treasure, the static god of treasure, the static goddess of treasure, the static goddesses of treasure, the static goddess of treasure, the dynamic god of treasure, the dynamic gods of treasure, the dynamic god of treasure, the dynamic goddess of treasure, the dynamic goddesses of treasure, the dynamic goddess of treasure, the land god of treasure, the land gods of treasure, the land god of treasure, the land goddess of treasure, the land goddesses of treasure, the land goddess of treasure, the sea god of treasure, the sea gods of treasure, the sea god of treasure, the sea goddess of treasure, the sea goddesses of treasure, the sea goddess of treasure, the sky god of treasure, the sky gods of treasure, the sky god of treasure, the sky goddess of treasure, the sky goddesses of treasure, the sky goddess of treasure, the god of treasure, the gods of treasure, the god of treasure, the goddess of treasure, the goddesses of treasure, the goddess of treasure, the half god of treasure, the half gods of treasure, the half god of treasure, the half goddess of treasure, the half goddesses of treasure, the half goddess of treasure, the vessel of treasure, the vessels of treasure, the vessel of treasure, the name of treasure, the names of treasure, the name of treasure, the person of treasure, the persons of treasure, the person of treasure, the persona of treasure, the personas of treasure, the persona of treasure, the personage of treasure, the personages of treasure, the personage of treasure, the personality of treasure, the personalities of treasure, the personality of treasure, the personification of treasure, the personifications of treasure, the personification of treasure, the image of treasure, the images of treasure, the image of treasure, the imagination of treasure, the imaginations of treasure, the imagination of treasure, the belief of treasure, the beliefs of treasure, the belief of treasure, the thought of treasure, the thoughts of treasure, the thought of treasure, the word of treasure, the words of treasure, the word of treasure, the action of treasure, the actions of treasure, the action of treasure, the reaction of treasure, the reactions of treasure, the reaction of treasure, the feeling of treasure, the feelings of treasure, the feeling of treasure, the situation of treasure, the situations of treasure, the situation of treasure, the circumstance of treasure, the circumstances of treasure, the circumstance of treasure, the environment of treasure, the environments of treasure, the environment of treasure, the relationship of treasure, the relationships of treasure, the relationship of treasure, the number of treasure, the numbers of treasure, the number of treasure, the formula of treasure, the formulas of treasure, the formula of treasure, the equation of treasure, the equations of treasure, the equation of treasure, the theory of treasure, the theories of treasure, the theory of treasure, the symbol of treasure, the symbols of treasure, the symbol of treasure, the color of treasure, the colors of treasure, the color of treasure, the thing of treasure, the things of treasure, the thing of treasure, the way of treasure, the ways of treasure, the way of treasure, the place of treasure, the places of treasure, the place of treasure, the time of treasure, the times of treasure, the time of treasure, the event of treasure, the events of treasure, the event of treasure, the result of treasure, the results of treasure, the result of treasure, the crown of treasure, the crowns of treasure, the crown of treasure, the throne of treasure, the thrones of treasure, the throne of treasure, the treasure king, the treasure kings, the treasure kingdom, the treasure kingdoms, the treasure king's subject, the treasure king's subjects, the treasure king's dominion, the treasure king's dominions, the kingdom of treasure, the kingdoms of treasure, the kingdom of treasure, the treasure queen, the treasure queens, the treasure queendom, the treasure queendoms, the treasure queen's subject, the treasure queen's subjects, the treasure queen's dominion, the treasure queen's dominions, the queendom of treasure, the queendoms of treasure, the queendom of treasure, the treasure prince, the treasure princes, the treasure princedom, The treasure princedoms. The treasure prince's subject. The treasure prince's subjects. The treasure prince's dominion. The treasure prince's dominions. The princedom of treasure. The princedoms of treasure. The princedom of treasure. The treasure princess. The treasure princesses. The treasure princessdom. The treasure princessdoms. The treasure princess's subject. The treasure princess's subjects. The treasure princess's dominion. The treasure princess's dominions. The princessdom of treasure. The princessdoms of treasure. The princessdom of treasure. The lord of treasure. The lords of treasure. The lord of treasure. The lordess of treasure. The lordesses of treasure. The lordess of treasure. The priest of treasure. The priests of treasure. The priest of treasure. The priestess of treasure. The priestesses of treasure. The priestess of treasure. The ritual of treasure. The rituals of treasure. The ritual of treasure. The shrine of treasure. The shrines of treasure. The shrine of treasure. The temple of treasure. The temples of treasure. The temple of treasure. The leader of treasure. The leaders of treasure. The leader of treasure. The follower of treasure. The followers of treasure. The follower of treasure. The natural substance of treasure. The natural substances of treasure. The natural substance of treasure. The supernatural substance of treasure. The supernatural substances of treasure. The supernatural substance of treasure. The temporal substance of treasure. The temporal substances of treasure. The temporal substance of treasure. The spiritual substance of treasure. The spiritual substances of treasure. The spiritual substance of treasure. The natural form of treasure. The natural forms of treasure. The natural form of treasure. The supernatural form of treasure. The supernatural forms of treasure. The supernatural form of treasure. The temporal form of treasure. The temporal forms of treasure. The temporal form of treasure. The spiritual form of treasure. The spiritual forms of treasure. The spiritual form of treasure. The age of treasure. The ages of treasure. The age of treasure. The era of treasure. The heiress of treasure. The era of treasure. The awakener of treasure. The awakeners of treasure. The awakener of treasure. The awakening of treasure. The awakenings of treasure. The awakening of treasure. The realm of treasure. The realms of treasure. The realm of treasure. The dimension of treasure. The dimensions of treasure. The dimension of treasure. The zone of treasure. The zones of treasure. The zone of treasure. The frequency of treasure. The frequencies of treasure. The frequency of treasure. The century of treasure. The centuries of treasure. The century of treasure. The millennium of treasure. The millenniums of treasure. The millennium of treasure. The purpose of treasure. The purposes of treasure. The purpose of treasure. The meaning of treasure. The meanings of treasure. The meaning of treasure. The culture of treasure. The cultures of treasure. The culture of treasure. The demonstrator of treasure. The demonstrators of treasure. The demonstrator of treasure. The demonstration of treasure. The demonstrations of treasure. The demonstration of treasure. The manifester of treasure. The manifestors of treasure. The manifester of treasure. The manifestation of treasure. The manifestations of treasure. The manifestation of treasure. The presence of treasure. The presences of treasure. The presence of treasure. The glow of treasure. The glows of treasure. The glow of treasure. The goal of treasure. The goals of treasure. The goal of treasure. The plan of treasure. The plans of treasure. The plan of treasure. The book of treasure. The books of treasure. The book of treasure. The philosopher of treasure. The philosophers of treasure. The philosopher of treasure. The philosophy of treasure. The philosophies of treasure. The philosophy of treasure. The releaser of treasure. The releasers of treasure. The releaser of treasure. The release of treasure. The releases of treasure. The release of treasure. The variable of treasure. The variables of treasure. The variable of treasure. The cause of treasure. The causes of treasure. The cause of treasure. The effect of treasure. The effects of treasure. The effect of treasure. The journey of treasure. The journeys of treasure. The journey of treasure. The emergence of treasure. The emergences of treasure. The emergence of treasure. The source of treasure. The sources of treasure. the source of treasure, the originator of treasure, the originators of treasure, the originator of treasure, the origin of treasure, the origins of treasure, the origin of treasure, the forefather of treasure, the forefathers of treasure, the forefather of treasure, the foremother of treasure, the foremothers of treasure, the foremother of treasure, the ancestor of treasure, the ancestors of treasure, the ancestor of treasure, the descendant of treasure, the descendants of treasure, the descendant of treasure, the lineage of treasure, the lineages of treasure, the lineage of treasure, the heritage of treasure, the heritages of treasure, the heritage of treasure, the heir of treasure, the heirs of treasure, the heir of treasure, the co-heir of treasure, the co-heirs of treasure, the co-heir of treasure, the joint heir of treasure, the joint heirs of treasure, the joint heir of treasure, the dynasty of treasure, the dynasties of treasure, the dynasty of treasure, the force of treasure, the forces of treasure, the force of treasure, the law of treasure, the laws of treasure, the law of treasure, the pact of treasure, the pacts of treasure, the pact of treasure, the game of treasure, the games of treasure, the game of treasure, the mask of treasure, the masks of treasure, the mask of treasure, the armor of treasure, the armors of treasure, the armor of treasure, the sword of treasure, the swords of treasure, the sword of treasure, the shield of treasure, the shields of treasure, the shield of treasure, the force shield of treasure, the force shields of treasure, the force shield of treasure, the armored force shield of treasure, the armored force shields of treasure, the armored force shield of treasure, the champion of treasure, the champions of treasure, the champion of treasure, the guardian of treasure, the guardians of treasure, the guardian of treasure, the defender of treasure, the defenders of treasure, the defender of treasure, the protector of treasure, the protectors of treasure, the protector of treasure, the chant of treasure, the chants of treasure, the chant of treasure, the shape of treasure, the shapes of treasure, the shape of treasure, the cube of treasure, the cubes of treasure, the cube of treasure, the cuboid of treasure, the cuboids of treasure, the cuboid of treasure, the sphere of treasure, the spheres of treasure, the sphere of treasure, the spheroid of treasure, the spheroids of treasure, the spheroid of treasure, the prism of treasure, the prisms of treasure, the prism of treasure, the pyramid of treasure, the pyramids of treasure, the pyramid of treasure, the cylinder of treasure, the cylinders of treasure, the cylinder of treasure, the cone of treasure, the cones of treasure, the cone of treasure, the triangle of treasure, the triangles of treasure, the triangle of treasure, the circle of treasure, the circles of treasure, the circle of treasure, the semicircle of treasure, the semicircles of treasure, the semicircle of treasure, the square of treasure, the squares of treasure, the square of treasure, the rectangle of treasure, the rectangles of treasure, the rectangle of treasure, the parallelogram of treasure, the parallelograms of treasure, the parallelogram of treasure, the rhombus of treasure, the rhombuses of treasure, the rhombus of treasure, the trapezoid of treasure, the trapezoids of treasure, the trapezoid of treasure, the polygon of treasure, the polygons of treasure, the polygon of treasure, the pentagon of treasure, the pentagons of treasure, the pentagon of treasure, the hexagon of treasure, the hexagons of treasure, the hexagon of treasure, the septagon of treasure, the septagons of treasure, the septagon of treasure, the octagon of treasure, the octagons of treasure, the octagon of treasure, the nonagon of treasure, the nonagons of treasure, the nonagon of treasure, the decagon of treasure, the decagons of treasure, the decagon of treasure, the evolution of treasure, the evolutions of treasure, the evolution of treasure, the revolution of treasure, the revolutions of treasure, the revolution of treasure, the elemental art of treasure, the elemental arts of treasure, the elemental art of treasure, the elemental science of treasure, the elemental sciences of treasure, the elemental science of treasure, the elemental principle of treasure, the elemental principles of treasure, the elemental principle of treasure, the elemental technology of treasure, the elemental technologies of treasure, the elemental technology of treasure, the low elemental art of treasure, the low elemental arts of treasure, the low elemental art of treasure, the low elemental science of treasure, the low elemental sciences of treasure, the low elemental science of treasure, the low elemental principle of treasure, the low elemental principles of treasure, the low elemental principle of treasure, the low elemental technology of treasure, the low elemental technologies of treasure, the low elemental technology of treasure, the high elemental art of treasure, the high elemental arts of treasure, the high elemental art of treasure, the high elemental science of treasure, the high elemental sciences of treasure, the high elemental science of treasure, the high elemental principle of treasure, the high elemental principles of treasure, the high elemental principle of treasure, the high elemental technology of treasure, the high elemental technologies of treasure, the high elemental technology of treasure, the agent of treasure, the agents of treasure, the agent of treasure, the agency of treasure, the agencies of treasure, the agency of treasure, the amplifier of treasure, the amplifiers of treasure, the amplifier of treasure, the amplification of treasure, the amplifications of treasure, the amplification of treasure, the enhancer of treasure, the enhancers of treasure, the enhancer of treasure, the enhancement of treasure, the enhancements of treasure, the enhancement of treasure, the magnifier of treasure, the magnifiers of treasure, the magnifier of treasure, the magnification of treasure, the magnifications of treasure, the magnification of treasure, the influencer of treasure, the influencers of treasure, the influencer of treasure, the influence of treasure, the influences of treasure, the influence of treasure, the emanator of treasure, the emanators of treasure, the emanator of treasure, the emanation of treasure, the emanations of treasure, the emanation of treasure, the converger of treasure, the convergers of treasure, the converger of treasure, the convergence of treasure, the convergences of treasure, the convergence of treasure, the aura of treasure, the auras of treasure, the aura of treasure, the impression of treasure, the impressions of treasure, the impression of treasure, the intelligence of treasure, the intelligences of treasure, the intelligence of treasure, the sophistication of treasure, the sophistications of treasure, the sophistication of treasure, the genius of treasure, the geniuses of treasure, the genius of treasure, the polymath of treasure, the polymaths of treasure, the polymath of treasure, the psychic of treasure, the psychics of treasure, the psychic of treasure, the knowledge of treasure, the knowledges of treasure, the knowledge of treasure, the understanding of treasure, the understandings of treasure, the understanding of treasure, the wisdom of treasure, the wisdoms of treasure, the wisdom of treasure, the secret of treasure, the secrets of treasure, the secret of treasure, the mystery of treasure, the mysteries of treasure, the mystery of treasure, the revelation of treasure, the revelations of treasure, the revelation of treasure, the tactic of treasure, the tactics of treasure, the tactic of treasure, the strategy of treasure, the strategies of treasure, the strategy of treasure, the strength of treasure, the strengths of treasure, the strength of treasure, the might of treasure, the mights of treasure, the might of treasure, the power of treasure, the powers of treasure, the power of treasure, the authority of treasure, the authorities of treasure, the authority of treasure, the dominion of treasure, the dominions of treasure, the dominion of treasure, the rhythm of treasure, the rhythms of treasure, the rhythm of treasure, the melody of treasure, the melodies of treasure, the melody of treasure, the music of treasure, the musics of treasure, the music of treasure, the lyric of treasure, the lyrics of treasure, the lyric of treasure, the song of treasure, the songs of treasure, the song of treasure, the dance of treasure, the dances of treasure, the dance of treasure, the spirit of treasure, the spirits of treasure, the spirit of treasure, the soul of treasure, the souls of treasure, the soul of treasure, the body of treasure, the bodies of treasure, the body of treasure, the mark of treasure, the marks of treasure, the mark of treasure, the promise of treasure, the promises of treasure, the promise of treasure, the visionary of treasure, the visionaries of treasure, the visionary of treasure, the vision of treasure, the visions of treasure, the vision of treasure, the picture of treasure, the pictures of treasure, the picture of treasure, the sound of treasure, the sounds of treasure, the sound of treasure, the dung of treasure, the dungs of treasure, the dung of treasure, the language of treasure, the languages of treasure, the language of treasure, the communication of treasure, the communications of treasure, the communication of treasure, the people of treasure, the peoples of treasure, the people of treasure, the society of treasure, the societies of treasure, the society of treasure, the fortress of treasure, the fortresses of treasure, the fortress of treasure, the government of treasure, the governments of treasure, the government of treasure, the city of treasure, the cities of treasure, the city of treasure, the nation of treasure, the nations of treasure, the nation of treasure, the civilization of treasure, the civilizations of treasure, the civilization of treasure, the world of treasure, the worlds of treasure, the world of treasure,